Well, hello, everyone. Welcome to my session, Learning How It Should Be. My name is Mitch Salerno, head of school at Monte Vista Christian School in Santa Cruz, California. I'm excited to be with you. I thought for this fire starter, I would record just a few minutes of a few thoughts, kind of precede what maybe will be beneficial in our last 15 to 20 minutes of conversation live. And so, as I was thinking about this session, I was really thinking about the challenges that we face as as educational leaders leading change. And one of the things that was most interesting to me, I had watched a segment of a show on 60 Minutes. It's an American show, a news show that airs every Sunday. And they told the story of a particular man named Chris Downey. And I'll share that story here in a minute. But it really got me thinking about what our perspective is as we lead change, as we lead people through change, as they experience change. And so I really wanted to just take a few minutes to lay out maybe Chris's story, and then that would allow us to just think about what it means for us as we lead through these times. You know, one of the things that I've experienced is that leading change in general is difficult. Leading change during these times, these COVID times, has been particularly difficult. And it very well could be the American context, although I'm pretty confident that there's a global shift that's occurring as we move through these times. And it's really caused us to ask questions about education. What is it? What should it be? What is learning? How should learning be? How can we learn what learning should be? So let me share with you the story of Chris Downey. I've got some notes here on my phone I want to bring up, the story from 60 Minutes was a different kind of vision, it told the story of Chris Downey, who was an architect. He lived here in the Bay Area of California. That's just coincidence for this story. It's not because I think the Bay Area is particularly special, although it is a nice place to be. And he was 45 when he went fully blind, and he was an architect. And you could imagine that as an architect, and being blind, it would be very difficult to do your work because you can't read blueprints, you can't do the things that an architect would ordinarily do. Except Chris was not deterred. He continued on with his architect work. He reinvented ways of experiencing buildings. In fact, he came across new ways of experiencing buildings because of his blindness. He would create almost like Braille, but two-dimensional blueprints that he could feel with his hands, and he could experience them with his hands. In fact, one of the signature projects that he was able to work on, and they told the story in the 60 Minutes interview, was on the transportation hub in San Francisco. And he was able to bring a very unique perspective on this transportation hub because he was blind, and he was able to actually create it in such a way that folks who were blind could navigate and experience that transportation center. And it was brilliant, just brilliant. So let me leave you a couple of quotes that were from this story on Chris, but then also maybe these will be seeded questions that we can talk about live. The first is this. Chris said this: lots of people, other architects, would say that losing your sight is the worst thing imaginable. I quickly came to realize that the creative process is an intellectual process. It is just how you think. I just needed different tools. You could apply that quote to what we're going through right now as we lead people in our organizations, as we ourselves go through this time of change in education, is that we could quickly realize the creative process, like Chris Downey says, is an intellectual process. It is just how you think. It's a matter of shifting perspective. It's a matter of changing how you think. And so I know that we're probably struggling with changing how we think or helping others change how they think. But I think we can press on. Later in the piece, Leslie Stahl, who was the journalist who did the story, she made this comment. Downey seems to have a knack for finding windows when doors slam shut. It made me wonder, are we looking for windows today? Are we helping people find those windows when doors slam shut? Are we teaching our students to look for windows? Are we teaching them to be creative and intellectual and curious and to go after things? It's hard. It's really hard to change the patterns you've had for years, right? Teachers really struggle with this. The last piece in the story that I found really, really fascinating Stahl and Downey were having a conversation, and Stahl remarked, remember Stahl's a journalist, I get the feeling you think you actually are a better architect today. And Downey replied, listen to this reply, it's really fascinating. I am absolutely convinced I'm a better architect today than when I was sighted. I don't think about having my sight restored. Would it make my life better? I don't think so. How do we lead in such a way that our organizations don't want to go back to the pre-COVID days? How do we learn how it should be? So one of the things that I'm hoping when we have our 15 to 20 minutes together and we have a brief conversation is that we maybe can share a story. So bring a story of something that you're struggling through, motivating folks in your organization, or something that is a wall you seem to have hit perhaps. And we can talk about how do we lead in such a way that perspectives can be shifted, that are in kind of this inspirational story of Chris Downey. He lost his sight, an architect, still designed. In fact, he would say designed even better, would even say 10 years later, at the time of the story, that he wouldn't go back. He wouldn't go back to seeing. And it is my hope that as we lead organizations through this time of very unique shifting during COVID, that when we're done, when we're on the other side, that the folks that we lead, the folks in our organization would say, I don't want to go back. Why would I want to go back? It wasn't as good as I thought it was back there. I want to be where we are now. I want to keep learning. I want to keep creating. I want to keep changing in such a way that we can educate students and we can learn how it should be. Um, and so I wish you well. I hope you've enjoyed just this brief introduction story of Chris Downing. I look forward to talking with you in person and discussing some of what might be on your mind and how we can inspire and motivate others through this time. And we can together talk about learning how it should be. Have a great day. We'll see you live soon. Take care.